Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Sustainability in the Sea, a podcast for ocean people hosted and produced by FutureSwell. It's me, Carissa, and I'm really excited for today's episode, as I always am, because we have a guest, Max Kushner, who's coming on the show to talk about diving. He's a dive master and works out of Hawaii Island, so a few islands over from me. And he really talks about how you can get your certifications. Scuba diving is such a great way to get your foot into the door to start getting paid to be underwater and connecting people to the ocean. We also talk about shark finning, Project Hugh, which he manages social media content for, as well as, his career path, what advice he has for all of you that want to start diving careers, and also just kind of what you can start doing. We even get into policy and advocacy, which you all know I care a lot about. So before we get into the episode, I do want to just share a few quick announcements of what's been going on. World Ocean Day is around the corner. This is going out right before, and I just want to highlight whatever you can do to just get outside near a waterway, do something for the planet, this blue planet, no matter even if you're inland. Doing a cleanup ultimately helps our ocean. Just do something that makes you feel good and reminds you how much you love the ocean, whether it's listening to one of our old podcasts, reading The Blue Mind, watching an ocean documentary, and most of all, getting outside. FutureSwell is also launching our second drop ever of sustainable merch. These designs are so rad, but the reason I'm telling you this is because the older designs are being removed and they're never going to be able to be purchased again. So I'm just going to link our little shop down below if you just want to grab those before they're gone forever. But definitely stay tuned and follow us on socials for the drop of those. They're so cute. They're so 90s, 2000s surfer vibe-esque. That's all Hannah. So that is not me. My brain does not work that way. And the way we say is, you get to wear what you love, which is the ocean, which is such a good communication tool to start conversations with people. If you have curiosity about what makes these sustainable, I'm just going to share really quick. They're all made to order. So there's no, creating a bunch and then they don't get sold and sent to landfill. This is a small women-owned business, Bonfire, that does the printing. They're in the US, and a handful of the pieces are made on eco tri-blend teas, which include recycled materials. So just know we're doing this most thoughtfully we can, but I can't wait for you all to see it, and then we can all match. So check it out, and without further ado, let's get into the episode. Welcome back to Sustainability and the Sea. Hi, Max. Welcome to Sustainability in the Sea.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I was really excited because we've had some divers come on, but we haven't had a dedicated diving episode. And I think it's something that everybody like glamorizes or romanticizes about marine biology. So, but before we get into all of that, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and your upbringing and what brought you to the ocean in the first place?
Yeah, so initially I was born in Nebraska, so I'm from the Midwest and a lot of landlocked states, really not much ocean there,
Me
as you would
too.
probably get. Exactly. So I ended up living there for the first half of my life, and then first time I ended up seeing the ocean was in Mexico. I was 8, and the first thing I ended up seeing was a blue-ringed octopus, and at the time I had no clue what that was. And it was really cool. And then I ended up looking at a dive shop afterwards, and I was like, this is one of the most venomous animals in the ocean. That kind of sparked my interest. Like that, I had no idea. So I thought that was really cool. And then
Were you
ended up moving.
snorkeling? Like,
Yeah,
did
I
you
was snorkeling.
Okay, and
Yeah,
you were just like, "What's that?" And then
yeah.
no one touched it, and you were just like, "Huh."
No, no.
Okay.
I thought about it. I was like, oh my gosh, I wanna hold this octopus. I didn't, thankfully. Otherwise, I might not be here. But yeah, so that was really cool, and I knew I loved the ocean before that. Like Nemo was my favorite movie growing up, and it was a really cool first experience getting to see the ocean for the first time. That was a really big deal for me, and that kind of continued on. We went a few more times. I ended up moving out to California, and I got to take an oceanography class in high school, which was really cool. So that was my first time taking a dedicated class and learning about the ocean.
Wow. A lot of high schoolers don't offer that. That's
No,
great.
yeah. So that was a really big deal for me. I know a lot of high schools definitely don't do that. And then ended up getting scuba certified my junior year. It was an after school kind of program. I paid like $250, which is really cheap for that.
Yeah.
Ended up doing that, fell in love, and then ended up getting my advanced my senior year in high school through another class, which was really cool. I got to do a liveaboard dive boat in Catalina Island for a few
Oh.
days.
Do
It
you
was
see anything
really cool.
cool? Me and my partner
Uh,
really want to go to Catalina Island. We've never been.
Catalina is really cool. It's really cold. Ended up seeing a lot of Garibaldi, those orange state fish, some big black sea bass, some devil rays, a lot of kelp. Diving through the kelp was really cool. You just feel the light rays kind of coming down.
Yeah.
It was really cool. And then ended up going to college for marine biology at Manoa, which is University of Hawaii at Manoa on Oahu. And kind of COVID hit, didn't really end up staying there, transferred, and ended up coming back to Hilo to finish my marine science degree, which is really cool. Ended up getting my rescue diver and dive master through here.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of set up to have a career in the ocean. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, that's awesome. What a nice like summary of the whole journey. I feel like the going back to your childhood and your experience with the blue ringed
Mhm.
octopus, I feel like those experiences are what create marine biologists. Like
Yeah.
getting underwater when you're young, even if you're just like under 18
Mhm.
and just like seeing the wonder of like reefs and everything that is below, I think just sparks like a level of curiosity that you can't ignore. Did you feel like you
Yeah.
knew that you were going to pursue this as a career when you first got scuba certified, like in high school for your open water?
At the time, no. So when I got scuba certified, I didn't think that would end up being a career for me. I had never really thought of it as a career. I was really stuck in that notion that, I want to be a marine biologist. I want to do research, which I think a lot of people have that idea. And it didn't exactly end up working out for me. Like I ended up doing something different, which I'm very happy where I'm at. But yeah, I yeah.
Yeah, I also think like I did the same thing as you. I wasn't in high school, I was in college, but there's like a discounted option to get scuba certified if you look at a school program and things. And I think that's such a easier way to pursue it. And so for anybody listening, like check out what's available. Like I was in a landlocked college in the University of Arizona, and it's like we did all the confined stuff in a pool, and then we went to Mexico for the checkout dives, and it's like it was so much cheaper, right?
So cool. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. And like you never know what's accessible to you. Like even folks I know in Arizona, like they'll go to like a lake and do the checkout dive. And it's like that is whatever gets you there, and it makes it's more affordable as a student. So
Mhm.
yeah. And then so what do you do now? If you could share a little bit with us. Your job looks awesome.
Thank you. So right now I'm working as a PADI dive master at the university at Hilo. So basically what I do is um as a dive master you can lead dives. So I've led some fun dives around the island here. Um when we go on trips, I've done a lot of classes here. I've done open water, advanced, and rescue classes. So I'll help out with those classes, kind of make sure everything goes smoothly, make sure everybody's safe, lead dives. Those classes, pack up gear, maintain gear. I got certified to visually inspect tanks, so
Yeah.
that's something I've been doing here as well. And
Keep people safe.
there's a yeah, exactly. Pretty much keep people safe. That's one of the big jobs is keep an eye on the students when instructors are doing skills with them, and just it makes things a lot easier. And I've really enjoyed that. It's a really fun job. It's really rewarding. And if students have trouble with skills, you can work one on one with them, make sure they get the skill down, send them back to the instructor to get checked off. So
What do
that's one of the
you
things I enjoy.
what do you wish you could tell students? Like something that you keep seeing them maybe how do I word this question? Like as someone with your expertise, like what would
Hmm.
make your job easier, or what would be a good message to someone who wants to get scuba certified to get the best experience out of the certification class?
I think that listening to your instructors are a really big thing because you'll end up having people that really think that like I know how to swim, I know how to do all this stuff, and instructors and dive masters, we're all very much trained to know how to do exactly what we're trying to teach you. So I think just soaking up the information is really nice and kind of drawing upon previous experiences because you might be working with different instructors on some days depending on what the scheduling looks like and some of that stuff. So I think really just listening and soaking up information is going to be really helpful. It's going to help you be a lot better diver, and it is really it's going to let you have a lot more fun in your class.
Yeah, it's complicated. Like as
Oh
a
yeah.
student, like you're learning so much, like you don't want to ascend too quickly. You need to make sure you can't talk down there. You have to be able to
Yeah.
communicate your all the buddy safety protocols. I felt like that was really intimidating for me when I was going through it. But like the only way to get more comfortable is to get out there and do it, right? So like how many
Mhm.
dives would you say people need to really feel like comfortable?
So that can definitely change based on people. We've had people here who have gone from open water, so 4 dives, and then they'll go into their advanced, end up with 9 dives from that. And I've seen people look pretty good underwater from that, but it really does come with experience. I'm at like 95 dives right now, and I felt comfortable for a while. So, I mean, I wouldn't say there's exactly a number, but I think getting out as much as you can and the water is huge. And even just getting comfortable in the water, just snorkeling, being comfortable in the water, it's really helpful because one of the big things about diving is being able to think while you're doing like multiple things.
Yeah, that's what I
It's a
wanted.
tough thing.
Yeah, that's like what I wanted to see. Like, what are the most valuable
Mhm.
skills you get from being a diver? It sounds like you're able to multitask.
Yeah.
Um, Comfort in deep water is like hard to get. It
Yeah.
takes time. Yeah, what else would you say like are the most, because these will kind of be applied to a career in conservation or
Mhm.
marine biology after too, like working with people. Do you have to be an extrovert?
I'm pretty extroverted. It helps. You definitely don't have to be. Just as long as you're making sure people are safe, that's really the biggest thing and they're learning. But like just being an extrovert, it'll make things a little bit more fun. Like I like playing rock, paper, scissors with people when like the instructors are working on skills with other people and just kind of trying to find ways to make the class as enjoyable as possible for them because it's going to want to make people participate more and it's going to make them really excited.
Yeah. Um, it can be obviously a financial hurdle to get scuba
Hmm.
certified. And like for open
Yeah.
water and even advanced, like you can look at what your school offers. But for example, my best friend is an instructor here on Oahu, and
Hmm.
it was hard for her to make that decision to get up to that level because it was such a financial investment.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
do you feel like, do you have any hacks for people of how to do that? Can you get employers to pay for it? And then do you think that it's worthwhile to get up to that level if you're committed to a career in diving?
Yeah. So I think it's definitely worth it to get up to that level. It's definitely not cheap. Like I've had to work a lot to make that happen for myself, and I've definitely got some help along the way. But I think it's worth it. I really like being a dive master, and I think I'm really excited for the extra responsibility. I think I've really enjoyed teaching people. So if you enjoy being a dive master, I think the next step up to instructor is a pretty easy choice. At least it was for me. And then as for hacks, a lot of companies around the world, diving is an international job. You can go work really anywhere with
Yeah.
that. And a lot of shops will offer dive master or instructor internships where you'll kind of work off the cost of your certification and it can be a lot cheaper. So that's probably one of the best ways to go do that. You might not be making a ton of money while you're doing it, but you will work off the cost of the certifications, which can be kind of expensive sometimes.
Yeah. And then pay over time. And that's
Hmm.
such a important consideration because I feel like the folks in our generation, like we really value travel and experience
Hmm.
and spending time outside. And I think you can
if you invest in getting a up to dive master or instructor, like you can go travel anywhere. You can move to
Hmm.
Australia and be on a liveaboard for and work off a liveaboard for a year off
Yeah,
the Great Barrier Reef, and then you can go to the Maldives, and then you can go. You just those certifications will always be something you have to offer a job.
exactly. Exactly. And like you're certified for life for those, which is awesome. If you go out of teaching for a little bit, they will make you do some retraining, just make sure you're up to being able to teach. But I think it's a really good job. It's really cool. It's really nice to have the option to really be able to travel anywhere. And instructors are a very in demand job. Really anywhere. People love hiring instructors, and it's a really good certification to have. I mean, you can do other stuff in life, like you can work another job. A lot of people I've seen will work jobs and then end up quitting those or retiring and then go work as a scuba instructor. That's another thing people will do.
Yeah. What do you love about you're obviously based on Hawaii Island, Big Island. What do you love
Mhm.
about diving there?
I think Big Island, the reefs are really healthy and
They
in
are,
places, which it's a nice change because I've done some diving on Oahu,
I know,
and
yeah.
there's a very big difference between those two places. So I really enjoy diving here. I've had sites where it's just so full of life, and you might not end up seeing just a bunch of big things, but just all the life around, the fish swimming around, and you can just see so much, and it's really rewarding. It makes me really happy just being underwater, but just seeing all of the life around you is it's so fun. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, I think it's also I know that one of the biggest tourism attractions for Hawaii Island is the opportunity to see giant manta rays.
Yeah.
See them a lot.
Yeah, so I've gone to one of the manta sites around here, and I've been a pretty good amount of times, and I've had some really, really cool interactions with them. There is one girl out there. I know that there's a database for mantas here, and you can identify them by the spots on the underneath side of them, and there's a way to send those in so that they can identify them,
Yeah.
which is really cool. So I've had this one female manta ray that I've had some really cool interactions with. She just swam straight over my head, like probably a foot over my head, and I was just sitting looking at her, and she started swimming straight at me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, she's right over me. And she has a broken wing, so that's how I know it's her every time. But they're very interactive, and they're just amazing animals. Like
What
they're so fun seeing.
do you know what brings them there? Like if you're going to the sites that they're more likely to see them?
Yeah, so I think they're called cleaning stations. I think that's technically what they are, feeding stations. I'm honestly I should know this.
We're not manta
Um
ray experts. Neither of us are. I'll have to get a manta ray expert on the show, but I think like
yeah.
I did it once or twice. I did it twice at the because there are two sites, and I
Yeah.
think they said like they obviously feed at night. They feed on
Yeah.
fire and they're filter feeders, and
Mhm.
they've just been coming predictably to this site that allows um,
Yeah.
people to see and observe it. And I did it on snorkel, which was way different. And I wish
Mhm.
that I did it on scuba because I think you just sit at the bottom, right? And you just watch.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't done one of those. I also haven't paid for one of those. I've always gone out myself and not
Yeah.
had to pay for one of the tours,
Yeah.
which is really nice. So, yeah, it's been really cool. They're amazing animals to dive with, and yeah, I've been on dives there where I've seen multiple at a time, and they just kind of follow in a line with each other, and just three or four of them just right behind the other, just doing flips, and it's amazing.
Yeah. They're incredible creatures. They're so gentle
They're
too.
very cool. They're very
So
cool creatures.
you are a dive instructor, you have a degree in marine science, but you're also really passionate about ocean conservation. And so
Hmm.
how did you get to everyone has a story of what brought them to conservation, and I would love to know like did you learn something? Did you just what kind of got you to prioritize this as a focus area for your career?
Yeah, so conservation's always kind of been a big part of my life. I used to watch Steve Irwin a lot when I was a kid, and that was kind of where the ocean mindset came from, and conservation mindset also came from that. And I've been really into that since I was a kid, and I'd accumulated this really big amount of knowledge about conservation and animals. And then COVID finally hit. Everything was kind of shut down for a while, and I had started my TikTok page, which ended up doing really well. I ended up getting to talk about conservation a lot, educating people, which was really rewarding. It was really fun, and kind of just kept going with that, which it meant a lot to me because I had a lot to say, and it was nice that people were listening. So just kind of ran with it, and then page ended up growing a lot. I ended up out here working in diving, and I've really been trying to combine conservation with diving. I think that is really important to me to be able to do, because I do understand that there have been some kind of irresponsible divers and possible diving operations as well. And I mean, divers really have a job. Like, we're underwater there. We're the ones on the reefs a lot. And, it's a job to dive responsibly and kind of dive with that conservation mindset as well.
Yeah, I think that, and this goes for like snorkel tours as well. I think there's such an
Hmm.
opportunity for, and some businesses do a really great job of this, but like to
Hmm.
have a conservation segment in the briefing before,
Hmm.
and have like maybe signage or handouts, or even just talk about it in the briefing of like ways to dive responsibly and to be a
Hmm.
respectful diver that is conservation minded. Like it could even be called that, like the conservation mindset for scuba divers, because um it's hard, but there's always that moment where the instructor has like 15 minutes to just get everybody up to speed, and it's like there's such an opportunity then to just make sure think that a preventative opportunities for nothing to happen, and then after to hit home like, oh, we just dove with manta rays, did you know that they're endangered for these reasons, and here are some ways that you
Hmm.
can participate in this species conservation.
Exactly.
You would be like a perfect candidate for helping to integrate that into dive tours.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's really important, and I think that's one of the nice things about getting a degree in marine science, which about to graduate next week actually, which is really
Woo!
cool. So it's nice to have the science background, because you can explain what you see, you can explain behaviors, and it helps other people and divers understand like what they're seeing, which is important because it kind of helps them know how to interact with the environment better and interact with certain species more responsibly. And I know something that's really important out here is just explaining kind of the cultural significance as well about certain sites that you're going to be diving at. That is a really big thing specific for Hawaii and other places as well. But just being here, it's important to be able to do that, explain the conservation perspective, and all of that stuff really goes into diving responsibly.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned your content, and I will link your handles and social media platforms in the show notes. But you started doing that, during COVID, and I love that it's so educational, because
Hmm.
obviously I'm really passionate about bringing more ocean conservation topics into media.
Hmm.
What have you found your online community likes hearing about the most?
I have really seen people they're very strongly feeling about sharks and shark finning. That had been a thing that I had talked about a lot, and it's really something important to talk about because it happens a lot, and it's really done a big number in shark populations around the world, and it's it is really important to me as well. I run social media on TikTok for Project TU, which they Project TU is the one organization that really they prioritize shark fishermen, which I think is really important to do. It's a lot of people that there's going to be a lot of people that forget about the people who are doing this fishing and really don't want to do it. It's just the only thing they've had. So I've really been trying to highlight the issue of shark finning. It needs to end, but not forgetting about the people who really don't have a choice to do it.
Yeah.
It's
I always
important to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, Project Q is like the staple example of
Mhm.
an intersectional ocean conservation solution. I always point to
Mhm.
it. Obviously, my community loves learning about sharks too. It's like the number one request we get for this podcast. So I want to spend a little bit
Mhm.
of time on it. Shark,
Yeah.
the shark meat trade is
Yeah.
obviously driving species of sharks to extinction. We're having extra protections like sighting that happened last year. But what is the approach with Project Q that makes it a little bit different than solutions that are trying to stop shark finning and protect these populations for those people listening that might not know?
So the really unique part about Project Q, so the organization's purpose is to go into Indonesia and a small fishing village right now, and you convert shark fishermen to tourism, which is a lot more sustainable because there have been studies that have shown that having sharks and using that for tourism, and ecotourism, is going to provide a lot more economic benefit than shark finning. So converting these shark fishermen to tourism is going to set them up and their families up for a lot more sustained success over time. And it just means that they don't have to kill sharks because these trips can be dangerous when they go up for weeks at a time on the water. So that is the goal of Project Q. And the reason that that is so important is a lot of people will say we have to end shark finning, and then they'll kind of demonize the people that are doing it, but they don't understand why they have to do it. That's a lot of what all these people have known is shark finning, going out killing sharks. That's how they put money. That's how they put food on the table for their families. And it's really important to not forget about that when you're trying to get rid of shark finning, which obviously it needs to go, but you got to think about everybody involved because it is a lot more complicated than just getting rid of finning.
Yeah, and these fishermen, like, they're not the problem. It's the industry and the system.
Yeah.
And so something that I also try to think about when explaining these types of solutions is like, they're going to go out and catch shark and they're going to be able to get food on the table for their families. But will their sons be able to? Because there might not be sharks. So if you protect the shark populations and you're getting revenue from bringing tourists out to experience those populations, that's sustained revenue for their livelihoods across generations. And so it's an economic benefit too. And it's like, we have to think people first with this stuff. We can't pit industries against each other. We need to find solutions that thread the needle and I think that Project Q is a great example of that. I'm so happy you're involved with them because, we're changing the narrative with sharks, but there's a global movement to help protect sharks too. And yeah, I mean, if you could say anything about how an individual listening can help protect sharks, what would you say?
So something that I really am passionate about, and I think it's really important to do, is talk about sharks, educate people about sharks. So even just talking to friends and families and kind of telling them about sharks, why you love them, and kind of showing them some videos maybe or something like that is really important. Just the Jaws mindset of sharks that kind of like our parents and all those people before had seen, it's been passed along. And I think breaking that, showing people and educating people within your own bubble is a great way to start, because then that can expand so far away from where you initially started. So kind of just work in the area that you can right now. If you can have a bigger impact, go for it. That's awesome. But you don't have to start off like changing the world. Like you can start off changing your friend group, people at recess, just stuff like that. And then you'll find that the impact will grow and you'll get more involved, and it's a really rewarding thing. So I think just you can start small. That's totally fine. And then you have no idea if it could grow into something so much bigger.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful message because I believe that, in our own bubbles, it's like something that I did at first. I was like, I'm just not going to watch any of these movies about sharks ever again. And if somebody ever brings it up, I'm going to be like, I don't want to watch that. And here's why. And then it starts a conversation. And it's not like a pushy thing. It's just like, let's just not support these Hollywood movies that are demonizing sharks. And I don't know how much you're aware of. We've had a handful of shark encounters and interactions on Oahu this month, and a lot of the surf breaks are empty. People are getting back in the water now, but a lot of this is because the breaks are next to harbors, and so having people even understand that like sharks follow fishing boats in near a harbor because they're trailing fish that they caught, and just understanding how the ocean works, and that when we go into their habitat, that's their ocean. And so they're not here to hurt us. They're here to survive. And they're just in the ocean, and we are also in the ocean. And having that attitude, I've noticed with the shark narrative, even some of the press coverage here on Oahu this month has been very alarmist and Jaws mentality about it. And it was so awesome. There was a resident that got interviewed, and she was like, oh, well, she just immediately shut it down. And on live TV. And it was,
that's awesome.
I remember watching it and just being like, that's what we need. We need people to not engage in this narrative about sharks that ultimately harms them, and instead address systemic solutions. And so,
exactly.
It's a big lift with conservation, but we need more folks participating in it. I'm glad you are too. Are there any other parts of conservation that you're really passionate about?
Any other parts of conservation I'm passionate about? Let's see. I mean, really being an activist, I'm really passionate. I really enjoy talking about the laws and stuff that people are trying to pass. So, I mean, that's a big thing. There's a lot of times you'll see petitions floating around, or ways that you can let senators and people know that you want a certain law passed, because that does happen a lot. Things will get proposed and there's ways for you to reach out. So I think that's a really big thing that you can get involved in. Just keep an eye out, keep your ears open for stuff, because that kind of thing will float around, and there's ways for you to reach out and say, I want this passed, or give your opinion, and that can be taken into account. I think that's huge, because laws ultimately are what is going to make conservation effective. Unfortunately, that is kind of the biggest thing that is going to make a difference. So being able to kind of influence that and trying to do what we can to get certain things passed, I think that is really important as well.
Yeah, I always talk to my best friend, the dive instructor, and I'm like, does all roads lead back to policy? Like eventually, do they all? Because if they do, we need to all be participating a lot more than just voting. And I mean, this session for Hawaii, there was a bill that would have banned deep sea mining operations from out of Hawaii, and it didn't get a lot of coverage. And it's like, imagine if all of us who work and live by the ocean were like contacting our senators and representatives about how we felt. It's then they
like that is huge, and ultimately that's real power right there that people can hold. And just being able to hear about that, because like I never even heard about that.
I know. I reached out to the coordinator and I was like, you guys need a social media presence, like happy to help next year. And because nobody knows that there's 3,000 bills introduced every session. There's no way for all of us to track them. Like it's,
exactly. So that's a really big part of conservation as well. Kind of whether you like it or not, policy is a really big part of stuff, and getting laws changed, and just knowing about bills like that. You can reach out to your state senator and tell them like, I want this passed, get a ton of people to reach out, and that could be really important. And I know the kind of similar thing happened in Florida, because the Shark Fin Sales Elimination Act was passed. I think it was earlier this year or late last year, but that initially did not pass in Florida when it was proposed, and might have been proposed a year ago. So I think it was passed earlier this year. Yeah, so it passed the second time, because initially did not pass because people wanted it pushed through so badly that it ended up getting passed. But it took a little while, which until people really spoke up and stood up. So it's really important to be able to do that.
Oh, wow, we should stay in touch about Hawaii policy that's related to the ocean, because we have TikTok platforms, so we can mobilize people.
Exactly. And that's the way to use it though. Like if you are in a place to do something, it is really important to do something.
Yeah, I agree. We have a responsibility to the ocean. The ocean can't speak up for itself. It needs all of us doing. What would be, I guess, your biggest pieces of advice for, obviously you're graduating, you're about to enter this career field, to folks maybe a few years younger than you? What advice would you give them that you wish you could have told your younger self?
I think a big thing that I wish I could have told my younger self is don't be so dead set on a career. Just keep an open mind because since I was younger, I was like, I'm going to be a marine biologist, and not fully knowing what that meant, it it was a little bit anxiety inducing for me because I would say I want that and I didn't really understand. Then you get to college and you're going to realize that marine biology and marine science, it's a difficult field to get into. Your general ed classes are going to be tough and it's going to make you nerve wracking, but you can get through it. And something that happened for me was I realized that I did not want to do research. And that is something that I went to college like dead set on doing. And it was tough for me because I was like, what else is there? So
Same.
I think, yeah, so like keeping an open mindset is huge because I ended up finding being a dive professional. Like that's what I would like to do now. And you keeping an open mindset, something will fall into your hands. You will figure something out. So just get on the right path, take the little steps to go where you want. If you feel like just making little decisions along the way, this feels good, this feels right, it's going to lead you in the right direction. So I think keeping an open mind is really important.
It's almost like follow your favorite parts of the things that you're doing. Cause you're saying
Yeah.
smaller decisions. Like if you're like, oh, wow, I really love this. Like, but I'm
Hmm.
kind of finding out I don't like mine was I learned about statistics and I learned that I needed to do statistics and
Terrible.
research. And I was like, I'm out. Like my
Yeah.
my brain doesn't work this way. And I didn't want to force it
Hmm.
anymore. I didn't like
Yeah.
and I was like, I'm better at these things anyway. So why not
Hmm.
use that unique skills? And it sounds like same for you. You're like, I need to be in the water. Like, and
Yeah.
and now you're inspired every day being in the water. So
Exactly.
um
Yeah.
the last thing I say, or I ask every single person who comes on here is if you had to write anything on a billboard that all the most powerful people in the world would see who are making decisions about our ocean and conservation
Hmm.
of the species, what would you say on that
That's a
billboard?
really that's a really good question, actually. Um, Honestly, just please do something would be good. I really just we
Now,
need
yeah,
decisions to be made now. Not that the world is like going to end tomorrow, but like just to set up future generations, we need to start making decisions soon.
yeah,
I think is that is really important. So please do something now because pushing off these bills and shooting down these bills and putting in these pipelines and not really doing anything, it's not going to help us in the future. So I just making decisions as soon as possible is going to set us up for a better future.
we don't need plans anymore. We need action.
Exactly. And that's the thing. You can't keep talking about like, well, in 10 years we'll probably do something. Like 10 years that's not going to help us. It's going to make things worse.
Yeah, and with all of us participating and doing all the things you highlighted in this episode, like that's going to put pressure on these people to make it,
Exactly.
and us taking action too in however we can.
Hmm.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it was incredible. And for those listening that love the underwater world, this is the person to get that piece of satisfaction from to watch
Thank
all of
you.
your awesome stuff. So thank you so
Thank you.
much. I hope you have a good rest of your day.